Donald Trump appointed FBI Director Christopher Wray, was on Fox's Bret Baier. Remember, Fox is desperate right now to change some stories, right? I mean, that deposition was really brutal. The Murdoch one showed what a fraud this news outlet was. And the FBI had determined, again, low confidence, just like this Department of Energy, low confidence, that's their words, not my words, low confidence conclusion that there was a lab leak in Wuhan that the virus came out. Not that the virus was manufactured in the lab. There's been no, as far as I can tell, finding on that. Just that the lab, which studied viruses, leaked it. It's quite possible. It's quite possible that that was the case. There are other agencies that think it's far more likely that it came from the wet market, but either one is possible. Mm-hmm. Understand, too, that a big part of the reason why we don't know is because China is not the most transparent of societies, and they're not sharing this information. I don't know that we would share it if there was another situation. There might be less ability to keep it a secret, but I don't know. Nevertheless, it's weird timing that this guy's going on there. I guess maybe in the wake of the Department of Energy, but understand there is a real attempt to demonize China, yes, to go to war with China by certain elements of our government, of our society. He's also incredibly sloppy in the way that he talks about this and almost implies that it was a bioweapon as opposed to something that was being studied and leaked. I mean, look, is this important to know? Yes, because there needs to be better controls. I don't know to what extent we have the ability to say to China, you can't study this stuff, but we do have the ability to maybe pull back funding, although I'm not even sure that's the smartest thing to do, because you want
the cooperation between two world powers on things like this.
You want that world cooperation, and if you don't trust the Chinese, you want as much involvement in it as possible.
Exactly.
And so
that's what's always been frustrating about this is like, to me, like there's this idea and conventional wisdom being formed that this was another cancel culture thing and you weren't allowed, you were disappeared from the internet if you discussed it. And like, from my perspective, it was always people saying, hey, let's not turn this into like a Russia did a plandemic to undermine American freedom. Right. And like and like, to me, it's like, I think that's what like medical professionals were pushing back against. And like, they're pushing back against the certainty people were pointing out, like, oh, it's China, they don't want you to talk about it. Well, what's the evidence for it? And even still to this day, it's low confidence.
But I mean, even if there's full evidence, like what outside of like, we need better controls on this stuff, which of course we need better controls on this, even if it's at a wet market.
Right.
Like there is this attempt to make it about wokeness. And in fact, it was always about like, this is something that could happen anywhere. The Spanish flu started in Kansas. Let's be clear about that. The idea is that like, it's not like the problem isn't that whether it came from a lab or a wet market, it doesn't necessarily reflect well on China either way, or on humanity, or on climate change, or any of these things. But the reason why you don't say China flu is because people start to demonize Chinese people. And we had a lot of anti-Chinese violence in this country. That was real. And you don't call it China flu because it came from a bat, or it came from some virus. The geography was largely irrelevant. That's why. So I don't know, like there's some like weird, some like we've been like the racist right And conspiracy theorists think that they have somehow been vindicated. And it's like, wait, what? What? The rest of us were just waiting for some type of evidence. And we still, again, it's a low confidence. But even then, I'm not even waiting for evidence. Like, I say, tighten up all the labs anyways. Because what if a leak went out? We've seen the devastation associated with it. If it was up to me, I would say, like, we need to tighten up these wet markets.
Yeah. But I'd also say, like, it's good that we're working with, like, for instance, a country we could go to war with.
We need to do more of that. In fact, it was when the Trump administration pulled funding from those areas, specifically like these labs, where the controls that we had so that we could spot these things in country, that was a huge problem that you never hear anybody talk about anymore. But here is this ding-dong FBI chief going out and reiterating. Talk about politicizing stuff. They already issued a report. It was in the New York Times. I don't know why he's got to go out and do this, but
but just because he likes the truth and wants the truth to be out there as the FBI director.
I guess so.
Of energy study that says it's likely to have come from a lab leak, although the confidence is low. It cites the FBI. What is the determination by the FBI?
So, as you note, Brett, the FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan. Let me step back for a second. You know, the FBI has folks, agents, professionals, analysts, virologists, microbiologists, et cetera, who focus specifically on the dangers of biological threats, which include things like novel viruses like COVID, and the concerns that in the wrong hands, some bad guys, a hostile nation state, a terrorist, a criminal, the threats that those could pose. So here you're talking about a potential leak from a Chinese government-controlled lab that killed millions of Americans, and that's precisely what that capability was designed for. I should add.
All right, pause it. See, that's where he's like, this guy's such a ding-dong. It's why you shouldn't be going out there. It sounds like the FBI has a capability to track viruses, and that we're applying that capability to this, but we're not claiming that the Chinese, we should say, you know, who else died? Probably millions as well. We don't know exactly, but certainly hundreds of thousands of Chinese people. And then also other millions of people around the world. So it's not just Americans. This is not a...
I mean, China's having troubles with COVID.
Big trouble.
Like, if this was a plan, it backfired massively.
Unless they wanted to, screw up their economy and kill their own people. But this guy's so sloppy in the way that he talks about this. It is, well, I guess I'm being charitable and saying that it's sloppy, that he's being, because the uncharitable view is that he wants this misunderstanding that he's claiming that this is a Chinese bioweapon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this confirms like why people wanted to be careful about this topic.
Without a doubt. Go back a little bit.
A hostile nation state, a terrorist, a criminal, the threats that those could pose. So here you're talking about a potential leak from a Chinese government-controlled lab that killed millions of Americans, and that's precisely what that capability was designed for. I should add that our work related to this continues, and there are not a whole lot of details I can share that aren't classified. I will just make the observation that the Chinese government, seems to me, has been doing its best to try to thwart and obfuscate the work here, the work that we're doing, the work that our U.S. government and close foreign partners are doing, and that's unfortunate for everybody.
Ask yourself, what's the point of this guy? Why is this guy doing this now? I mean, I get that the DOE came out with this story, this report. Also curious as to why that they came out, why we know this information.
They just love ideas and truth.
But I mean, why do we know about a low confidence conclusion from one agency in this instance? You got to ask yourself about that. I don't think it's unreasonable, frankly. But why Christopher Wray is going out there as opposed to like press release, FBI also has a low confidence and agrees with this assessment, but needs to go out there and talk about how China is not. I mean, China's been in the news as of late, and U.S. ramping up hostilities with China been in the news lately. So I'm sure the crew that is so suspicious about Russiagate is on this.
Yeah, that LaRouche sort of door left makes this lab leak stuff basically about Fauci because they haven't squared how to sort of mesh the anti-imperialist branding with agitating against China.
Right. It's Fauci. It's one guy. This is about one guy. One 85-year-old guy who's retiring from business, from government. That's what this is about. That made
millions during the pandemic.
Who was working with Donald Trump. He was Donald Trump's head, incidentally. Here is Greg Gutfeld from Fox's The Five. I can't even tell what the point he's making here. But again, a lot of these aggrieved conservatives who want to be able to attack non-white people for whatever reason somehow are arguing that people who don't like racism were preventing the story of a lab leak from gaining traction when there was no evidence of a lab leak. There was no one out there saying it's impossible that there's a lab leak. I mean, I imagine maybe there was somebody, but I never heard it. There was just people saying there's no evidence. And here's evidence that no one's suppressing the story. Because when the DOE comes out with a low confidence conclusion during a Democratic administration, we all know about it. The whole point is they want to attack the need to have evidence before you make assertions. That's what's going on
that
here.
Are geared toward a political sort of outcome.
That's what they're attacking. They want it to be okay to go out and make every pronouncement, even that ones that aren't substantiated, to be as valid as ones that are substantiated. That's the agenda here. It's not about lab leak or no lab leak. It's like, it is perfectly legitimate to say hydrochloroquoxacline or whatever it is effective at dealing with COVID as the vaccine because I say it is, even though there's no evidence to support that. They are attacking science. They are attacking evidence. They're attacking reason. And that's what's going on here. That's when Gertrude Himmelfarb said it 60 years ago, that the right needs to attack science so that there's no objective truth. This is what's going on. This is the project.